Oh wow! Somehow we've assembled everyone in Tennessee that doesn't hate me. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. No tomatoes yet. I think the night's going to be fine. So, guys, I'm excited to speak with you tonight. And there are really two things I know a lot about. One is how to run a painting business profitably. Like that's what I do as a living. It's how I make my living. And the other thing I know a lot about is how to run an effective political campaign. Those are two things I've done for a living as a paid professional. And tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how, as a conservative Christian, you can engage with your community in a way that not only just makes you feel better, but also allows you to point to something and say, I did that, I changed that, I was a part of that. Not that I was sitting on the sidelines, not that I was a backbencher, but I was out there in the front, and I put in the time and energy to get there. So we're going to be talking through 13 rules for winning any political contest, and then we're also going to look through this personal action plan. But first, Adam asked me to introduce myself. I feel like most of you probably know my story, but I grew up dirt poor in Arab, Alabama. Dad couldn't read or write. Old sawmill slat house. We had red well water would belch out of the sink for about 10 minutes, and when it cleared out, you got to drink it. And we were just exceedingly poor. But I went to school. One of my first introductions to conservatism in general was riding around in Dr. Garrett's old truck delivering cows all over Marshall County, and Rush Limbaugh would be on the air. And so I would listen to that as I rode around, and I was just amazed because he always talked about the excellence of the founding of our nation. And as I started researching and reading it on my own, had an interest in history even as a small child, it's like amazing. I mean, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe that we're lucky enough to have it. That there's a whole other worldview that says, no, it's not good, it's not excellent, it has not done what it's done, and they want it to be something different. And so I've always been on the side of preserving and even going back to, whenever we can, those founding principles. So I got interested in politics when I got here. There were two things I looked for, my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Order, and then I looked for the Hamilton County Republican Party. Neither of which had the proper contact information or the person on the website. And so I had to go, be a little reporter and figure out how to get there. And I showed up to the Hamilton County Republican Party meeting, and I was involved. I worked on U.S. Senator Bob Corker, who is not as conservative as maybe as I'd hoped, Congressman Scott DesJarlais, and all in all about 14 different races. And those are state and local and some legislative efforts, and all of those have been successful. The only two races that weren't successful were my first two. I ran for SGA president and won the primary, lost the general. And then I lost, what else did I lose? I lost a run for city council, okay, to a man named Homer Bundrum. That's pretty embarrassing. And so I learned a lot from those two races, and the worst thing I had going for me was that I was the candidate. And so I decided, well, if I'm the problem, maybe I could just go help somebody else. And so that's what I started doing. And I got out of that for a long time. I built up a painting business and sold it. And I just got completely out of politics entirely, like cold turkey. The last few races I worked on were like Sabrina Smedley's county commission race and a couple of judge races. I did about 3 or 4 of them at a time. I was like, I'm done with this. And so I just sat around for 6 years, and I was a lot happier because I was just blissfully ignorant because I don't pay attention to anything I can't do anything about. And then COVID happened, and I was sitting at my office, and I was angry. I was illegally sitting at my office, and I was angry. There are only 3 things I really like to do on a routine basis, and that's go to work, go to church, and go to the gym. And our county mayor had shut them all down. He was a Republican. Okay? Terrible. And then as I started looking at what we could do, I found out all the power was really at the state level of government. But anyway, I ran this, did this Market Street Bridge protest. Were any of you crazy people out there? Boy, propaganda does not work on you, does it? And this is April of 2020. Like getting out there in April of 2020 and saying the masks don't work and the vaccines aren't going to stop transmission, and no, you shouldn't shut us down, and no, just because of a bad cold, we should not lose all our civil and religious liberties, that was offensive. And it was offensive to people in power. And who was in power at the time? Republicans. Not Democrats in our state, Republicans. And so the liberal Times Free Press came after me hammer and tongs, which is fine, to be expected. They're not Christians. They're almost Democrats to a person. Even the conservative side of the paper is like, did you get the most liberal rhino you could possibly get to write? It's just terrible. And so they called us hayseeds, hicks. We wanted to kill grandma, all that stuff. And I was just like, we're just not going to be able to get a fair shake on this unless I start my own news publication. Well, my church had shut down and it would not meet. And finally, somebody recommended at our child's Christian school, you should go down to Calvary. And this has been almost 5 years ago now, I guess, or maybe it has been. It's longer than 5 years. And I didn't want to because I don't like change. I didn't want change. I didn't do something. I said, well, I got to go to church. And I came here fully intent to not like this place. I was ready. I knew I wasn't going to like it before I walked in. It's too big, and all this music. It's not an upright piano, and they're not playing Southern gospel music. How could I possibly come to a place like this? And Pastor Frank spoke on Nehemiah, and I was just like, gosh. Here are people walking past broken down walls for 80 years, and nobody doing anything about it. Maybe there's a Nehemiah in this room. And I left, and I said to my wife, we have to start that blankety-blank newspaper. Those were not Christian words, because I knew I had to do it, but I didn't want to do it. And so often when God asks you to do something, it is so often not something you want to do. And maybe you still don't even like doing it every day, but it's what you're there to do. And so I met with him and Adam and Ann, and I said, I need to start this newspaper, but I don't even know if it's ethical. Can a Christian even have any conflict in their life? I mean, that's what you get preached at church, right? Just kind and gentle Jesus. Don't ever argue with anybody over anything, even if it's a matter of principle, even if your business is shut down and you're masked and they're trying to stick stuff in you and they put your kids at home. Just keep your mouth shut, right? I mean, that has been beaten into us as Christians. And so with some encouragement from them and a whole bunch of money, we started the Tennessee Conservative. It was all my money. It still is. And so I don't make any money off that. That's something people always think because they know me for doing that I earn any money off of it. It just barely pays for itself. And I earn all my living running the Academy for Professional Painting Contractors. So one thing that's neat about that, and let's get into some of these personal mindset issues, is because I don't make any money off of it, I don't care what anybody thinks except for our grassroots supporters. And if they don't, that's it. Like, I don't have to worry about corporations. I don't have to worry about the Republican Party. I can just tell you all the truth. And the way that I look at my job at that organization is to just be a tuning fork for your typical GOP primary voter. If I survey our audience and if 97% of them are against something, I'm going to be against it. If it's split, I'm going to tell both sides of it, and I'm going to probably give you my personal opinion on it because that's my purview as the publisher. Right? That's one of the few perks. I get to give you my opinion. And so it's been interesting. But I will say this before we get in here. There's a lot to be depressed about. If you read our publication, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I look as hard as I can to see Republicans being Republicans, and so often I find them being something else. I can't help it. If they would quit doing it, I would quit reporting it. I promise. I didn't want to see this. I didn't think I'd see this when I first started the publication. I didn't think it's going to be anything like this. I would like to say it's been getting better as I've gone, but like the deeper you dig, the dirtier it seems to get. And so, but it has been effective. I have watched a lot of people. I've watched a lot of lawmakers go to the right because of our reporting. I've watched a lot of bills be killed because of our reporting, and I have watched a lot of political pain be dispensed because of our reporting, which is about the only thing anybody seems to respond to. And so it's been effective. And you look at around here, we got the Hamilton County Republican Party went conservative, the Washington County Republican Party, the Shelby County, Knox County. There may be a couple I'm leaving out. This is Williamson. These are big. These are like the big counties: Williamson, Knox, Chattanooga, Shelby. I don't know what happened with the Davidson one. I didn't keep up with it. But I'm saying there is a conservative movement that is not just at the national level, it is coming in at the grassroots level, and I'd like you to be a part of it if you'd be willing. So I'm going to go over some things here just so you can prepare yourself for what you're about to do. You need to gird your loins, okay? I don't know if women have loins too, but I assume they do. I don't know what that means. It's in the scriptures, I think. You're going to have to, you have to get ready for this stuff because it is not easy. It is not pleasant when you actually start making a difference. So I'm going to give you a few things you can count on. You ready? This might run half of you off. That'll be good. We'll have the ones that really care left. The truth will set you free, but it does not win popularity contests. It's fear of God or fear of man. You can't be serving both. It's going to be uncomfortable. Political peer pressure and hazing is real. If you think you are peer pressured when you were in 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th grade, college, as an adult, it gets worse. And most people cave quicker because we lose our sense of independence. I don't know if we grow out of it or what, but there's going to be peer pressure. They'll get, there's ladies and men in this room that have been called into meetings and everybody's giving them the full court press. And it's just, next thing you know, it's going to be like, take the paddle out. Thank you, sir. May I have another? It's about like that. It's just it's weird. If you're effective, you will be feared and hated. But if you're not feared, at least, you're not going to be very effective. If a politician or a lawmaker is not concerned about losing their office, you are irrelevant. The only time they ever talk about you is when you're relevant, which is why they always talk about Calvary and Pastor Frank, is because we have been effective. The proof's in the pudding. You've got to avoid what I call the political entertainment trap and refocus your time and energy. How many of you have about 15 podcasts you love to listen to? You're reading a different conservative book every week. You're going to log 32 hours this week either listening to or watching some kind of conservative content. Raise your hand. It's okay. Some of you are listening now. You're not even listening to me. You're scrolling through your phone. I got to get some more of this. I got to get some more. I'm here getting it this way, and now I'm getting it down here. Well, it's great, but what does it do? Not much. Not much at all. It is often entertainment masquerading as conservatism, and I would submit that being a conservative is not something you feel, it's something you do. And if there's not much doing there, there's probably not much conservatism there. So cut back on that stuff and then identify things that you can physically do that make a difference. I'm not asking you to give more time. I'm just asking you to take some of the time you're already given and just do something different with it so that it will be effective. You've also got to understand that the powerful only fear a handful of things: losing money, losing reputation, or losing an election. I wish that I had found that you could use a carrot instead of a stick, but I have not found it to be effective. They are allergic to carrots. They don't seem to care about them because they get all their carrots from the corporations. Like 94% of their campaign money, 95% comes from outside the district and from special interests. They don't have to have a dollar from you in their district to win, unless there's grassroots opposition and somebody that can raise a moderate amount of money to be competitive. And you can't run a campaign in a closet. A lot of you want to do things behind the scenes and talk to old so-and-so and not be out public and not endorse anybody and not be seen to have done this, that, and the other. Campaigning and political advocacy work is very public work. So when you publicly work, you're going to be attacked or whatever else. I was talking to Adam the other night, and he said, there's a lot of people in this audience may not like you. We got security, Brandon, don't worry. We got a police officer over there. I was like, that's great. That's great. But why would anybody care? And why would a friend of mine actually have to bring that up? And he was serious. It's because they don't want to lose that power. And it is, you might as well steal, for some of them, you might as well steal their firstborn child. I mean, it's that important to them. And you're just looking for good policy, but to them, it's become an idol. And when you take somebody's idol away, they are not happy. Very angry. All right, 13 rules for winning any political contest, and then we're going to get into some budgeting and things here. Number one, if any of you are going to try to do something like this, whether you're running for office or you just want to be working maybe within an organization or even on your own for advocacy, number one, you need to seek qualified professional counsel. People have the worst ideas about campaigning I have ever heard. It's terrible. It's like, you ever done heart surgery? No. You ever read a book on heart surgery? No. Anybody ever pay you to do this? No. But I got these ideas. I'm like, I bet you do. I mean, you're not working on my heart. I want somebody that's had some experience and some training, and so there's a lot of things that are counterintuitive about campaigning, and if you haven't done it a bunch, like, you'll just make mistakes. If you plug in with somebody that can help you, or if you plug in with an organization where somebody's already learned the basics, you can get plugged in until you know what's really going on at the top, but often when you just go out on your own, it can be a little challenging. Build the list. This goes for all of you that are running organizations. Politics starts with a list. Who will give? Who will lead? Who will be a volunteer? Who are some experts? Who can we get on the list? How do we continually build the list? And you need to determine what the list wants and find common ground. I think one thing that Republicans should be hot and heavy on, which we've never done at the party level, is talking about crime and quality of life issues in the city of Chattanooga. I think that would resonate in the deepest blue parts of the city, and I think we could get traction on that in a number of issues. I even think we could get traction on illegal immigrant education issues in our community if it's presented properly. But we don't have a voice out there. And just as you look at GOP primary voters, if you're going to work in the primary process, which I'd encourage you to do because that's really the only process with a few exceptions in our county that matters, you're going to have to learn how to build the list, be a part of the list. For those of you that are candidates, this is a 24/7 thing. You never get to quit doing this. You have to determine what the list wants. Just ask them. That's what I do. I just send out a survey, and if people say that, like, I don't care what the rhinos tell me because I'm not looking at the data. I'm like, no, they don't want that, buddy. It's right here. I don't even want it a little bit. And these 4% are probably Democrats. I mean, nobody wants this. And so when you know what people want, you are assured that your messaging will connect. Create a written action plan. We're going to do that here in a second. The shortest pen's better than the longest memory. I tell that to my owners all the time. If you set it down in writing and if you check on it and you start measuring it, you will see some things change. If it's all up here, chances are you're not going to get to where you want to get. Be assertive. Well, I'll back up. Know your opposition's weakness and record of service. This is something that candidates and advocates really struggle with, is that you are going to have to tell people how this person voted. You're going to have to tell them over and over again, and you're going to have to make sure they understand it. That's your job, right? You're asking them to make a choice. Well, you can't just tell somebody the good stuff. You got to tell them the bad stuff too. And people call it attacking, but to me, if it's on the record, that's not a personal attack. This is a policy argument. That's all this is. It's not personal. It's just a policy argument. Be assertive and truthful in your messaging. Well, if you're truthful, boy, it hits. It's like a clean hit when it's truthful. When it's completely truthful and you know that the audience won't like it or will like it, it works. And you've got to constantly be working on the offensive. You have to be assertive. There's an old saying, if they're explaining, they're losing. And we saw recently in some of these campaigns that the opposition was always explaining their bad record, their bad background, their bad whatever. And if they're explaining all the time, and we're actually speaking to the crowd, that's a lot better position to be in. But there's no way really to do this in an end run. This is a very straightforward kind of assertive process. Uncommon approaches beat proper channels. Uncommon approaches beat proper channels. One thing that you'll notice as you start getting into advocacy, of any sort or running for office is that you will immediately have a bunch of people tell you, oh, that's not the way it goes. You got to stand in line. You need to talk to old so-and-so. Have you been to the so-and-so? How long have you been in the so-and-so? 100 years? Well, that's not long enough. Wait your turn. Go through the proper channels. Maybe go through once for courtesy and set a timer. That time will have been wasted, and now you can start going through the improper channels to get things done. And the proper channels, really, it's just the elections, the election process. That's the whole process, reason we have primaries. They act like they're this huge divisive thing. I'm like, we have them for a reason. We have primaries for a reason, because we want the best Republican candidate, and we don't want a bunch of rhinos in most cases. And so you've got to go after it. Have a good turnout plan. It's never over. When I think about this recent reorganization, I was like, yeah, we got to build the list. We got to communicate with the list. Everybody said they're going to come on the list, but now we got to make sure the list turns out. And that's even more intense communication. So never assume that when you've got your band of brothers together to go to a county commission meeting or wherever you're going to go to do whatever you're going to do, that folks will remember and show. You got to work them there at the end, because having one more person sometimes makes the difference. You got to run through the finish line on election day or with any advocacy effort. You need to make a list and go, did I do every conceivable possible thing that I could to make sure we left nothing on the table? There were no drop balls. We didn't fumble. We took every little insignificant opportunity we could. Then that way, when you lay your head down on the pillow, when the vote comes, whether it's in an election or on an issue, you're like, you know what? I'm fine. I did everything I could. And that's where you want to be. And then finally, you've got to keep the list warm. You got to communicate with them. A lot of folks want to crank up a campaign and then shut it off. It's a relationship. If there's no communication, there's no relationship. And so that's why it's so important for y'all here at the civics and culture community to keep engaging with one another, to keep up with the communication that's coming out of here. And then later, as you go through your own advocacy efforts, there's some of you in here that will be remarkably talented at that, and that's what I'd recommend that you do. So let's talk about this planning sheet. I want you all to take a look at it. Get your little pens out. We're going to do some work here. School's in session. So the first thing I want y'all to do is go ahead and admit that some of this stuff's going to happen. And some of it's good and some of it's bad. Cost-benefit analysis. You will be personally attacked and peer pressure. You go ahead and check that one off. That one's going to happen. But the other thing that happens, I think, is you have low guilt and high self-esteem when you actually work on something and you don't just complain about it. It's like, man, I go knock doors occasionally. I put out yard signs. I make advocacy calls. I went up to the Capitol a couple of times. Whatever it is you think that you can do, boy, it sure does make you feel better than just watching it and not participating in it. Investing money for change has to happen. You're going to sacrifice time and opportunity. A lot of you, what you find in politics is that the reason a lot of folks get into it that aren't very talented is because they actually make money doing it. And the more talented you are, the more money you lose doing it. And so it's just the economics of the situation. So you are going to, and this is a sacrifice, you're going to sacrifice profitable time in business and work and with family to be civically engaged. You've got to acquire new skills. Most of you will have to learn how to do something you don't like doing, maybe aren't 100% comfortable with, but one day you may discover you've got a great talent for it. You may discover that it's very helpful, even in other parts of your life. I've found that running campaigns and being on campaigns is like a life skill. And it's something that's good to know, and organizing and communicating and working with a group on a deadline. I mean, I think it builds character, and I think it gives folks a more well-rounded professional experience. Less theory and more application. Y'all have thought long enough. You know what you think on every conceivable issue. What more do you need to know? Just go do some stuff. Just go do some stuff, okay? We're going to talk about the stuff to do. But as you do this, you get higher quality politicians, you get better government, better governance, and so that's what it's all worth. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go down here to step 2. It says channels. and I'm going to start quizzing you. I'm going to start pointing to people out there. I'm going to make sure something's being done. You need to put some kind of monthly activity on the calendar. Any kind of activity. Door knocking and canvassing, now you can't always do that. Sometimes there's I'd say about half the year there's probably an opportunity for that, but I don't know how much of it's going on right now, but it's very effective. Personal phone calls, emails, text messages, letters. Would you be willing to reach out to people with your time? Can you put out yard signs? Could you write letters to the editor? Could you volunteer? Some of you have ran volunteer organizations, or you've been the leader of your small group for many years. Well, you got all the skills you need to plug in and manage a few volunteers. Data entry or writing. Can you write things quickly and concisely? I mean, that's something Gail and them probably need help. It's a lot of work getting stuff together and getting it out. Campaigns have a hard time generating the content and getting it out. Graphic design or social media, video editing or AV skills. Some of you are out there making epic videos of cats falling over, and it's really well edited, and and maybe even some of y'all are doing political commentary. You're running your own podcast. Great. Let's turn that stuff here at the state and local level. Software work. Some of you are really good with high-tech stuff. And then finally, event work. Not all of politics is physical and in person, but the most effective parts are. And whenever there's an event, there's a 4th of July parade, which I think's coming up here not too long from now. The 4th of July parade, if there's some kind of right to life march, if there's a campaign that's having an event, try to show up. Can I show up and help? Can I bring things forward, whatever you need? Can I help you set up the event? Can I work the table? And by the way, my daughter, if we take the breaks out there working the table, she gets paid by the subscribers, so y'all don't gyp her tonight. Okay, she's in the back. So those are things you can do. So raise your hand if you've got a skill and you know of a campaign or an organization or some kind of independent thing that you're going to do that will actually make a difference. Raise your hand. Yes, sir. Yes. So communicating with your constituents, communicating with your fellow constituents, communicating with your lawmakers is very important, whether you're running a campaign or you're just doing advocacy work. Anybody else? In the back. Very good. Well, if you write it up smartly, I'll publish it. Sir, well, thank you. When they get a handful of those from real people back in their constituents, it makes a difference. Yes, sir. Very good. Yes, ma'am. Glenda. Yes, ma'am. We've got these, what happened over the last few years is the Republican Party pushed more people out of it than is in it. That's the issue. Like, it's just a numbers game, right? And so we've got all these organizations. Like I got the little group of people we meet up on Signal Mountain. If you're on Signal Mountain, we meet the second Tuesday, except this time there's something up there we're going to change the date on, and I'm out of town. John's my insurance guy. He is. He's been it for like 20 years. He's a big supporter of the Tennessee Conservative. He's a good Christian fellow. And he's active and has helped some candidates. So I appreciate you. He's been with me like from the beginning, right? He's real true blue. Other things. Now we're going to talk about the fun part. Yes, sir, I'll take you. You're the last one. Well, if you've got any op-eds or anything you want to send me, send them on stuff. We just can't catch it all. Like, we just had a bill make it out of subcommittee that nobody paid any attention to that was supposed to strip away the power of the local GOP to have caucuses instead of, they'd have to have a primary. You couldn't ever have a caucus. And so stuff like that just gets past us. So sometimes when organizations like yours we can only cover so much. If you found something that we've not been reporting on, give us a heads up, because we get a lot of our best tips from people like y'all. Yeah, it's terrible. This is the first time we've ever seen in the Tennessee legislature, to my knowledge, since I've been covering it, where these Republicans on these illegal immigration votes are just not going to committee meetings. I don't know if they're being scheduled out of them by membership or leadership. I don't know if they don't want to have their name on the vote. I don't know. But any organization where something that important, which is a number one or number two issue, comes up and it gets killed, for lack of people even showing up to vote. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. So let's talk about cash. Cash. The thing you should never talk about at church, money. Should never be, so especially personal money, should never be discussed at church. That is, I learned that in church. I think that was it's in the scripture somewhere. But it's important. I'm here to tell you that the reason these politicians get really addicted to corporate welfare, which is the PAC money that comes in, is because they're not very good at raising money back in their home districts. It's very difficult. And so if you don't fill the void, the corporations do. They're happy. They're going to be there anyway. So you've got to have this connection between those that you support locally. Like, it's got to be financial. Support an organization, support a news outlet. We'll take the money. I need it all day long. And so do organizations like you mentioned, Tennessee Stands, Choices here in town. I always say that I can tell if you're a conservative by looking at two things. You show me your bank statement and you show me your calendar. And if there's virtually no time on there to do anything meaningful and you've allocated no money for it, you know, things aren't going to change. And I'll close with this, you know, if every conservative was just like me, what kind of county would it be? And if you're not putting any time or money into it, and then it's real hard to kind of complain about it not being the way you want it. You've got to put some money and time into it. So I would recommend that you budget something monthly. And all of us have things in our budget that we don't need, that are probably wasteful, that aren't as important as these things. So put your money into it. So even though it is challenging as a conservative to tell people the truth, and you will pay a price. If you don't pay a price, you're not even scratching the surface. If you don't get any flack, you are not over the target. That's just what happens when you're effective. But there's joy in a job well done. You know, God does not call us, in my opinion, to succeed. He calls us to try. He calls you to try, and to try repeatedly, and to do your best. And I just ask you personally, do you feel like you're doing your best right now? And if you don't feel like you're doing your best, budget some time, budget some money, and just commit to doing it. You'll feel better having done it. I promise you. George Patton said, Americans play to win all the time. I wouldn't give a hoot and you know where for a man who lost and laughed. That's why Americans have never lost and never will lose in a war. And the very thought of losing is hateful to Americans. Well, it's hateful to me too. I don't like to lose. I don't like to lose. And I think we have got all the grassroots volunteer and much of the financial backing that we need in this very room to be remarkably effective in certain races. I think the winners are all in this room. I think we can do it. I have seen it done already twice in like 6 months' time. So I think, guys, set aside a budget, set aside some time. And when you hear an organization calling out for help, you hear a candidate calling out for help, don't get drugged over there by your ear, by somebody guilting you into it, although I will do that job if you need me to. And sometimes you may get a call from me occasionally. I'm sorry. I'm just like, yeah, come on in. We got to get this stuff done. And many of you are just remarkably generous in this room. I'm looking on both from prayer and financial and time and everything else. I mean, there's a bunch of really concerned, caring people in here, but we can measure it in time and money. So, guys, I'd recommend let's set aside the time, let's set aside the cash, and let's go out and win. What do you say? Thank you. Appreciate you.